Hello. So here we are for the 8th Tensegrity Assisted Therapy Study Group meeting. And today we were going to keep on the same subject, the first best constraint, because I think there's so much to, well, we could stay in just one subject for a lot of time. And I just wanted to make a small introduction to some talk that I have been having with Miguel. Because we have lots of entries. We have the embodied by tensegrity talks. We have the tensegrity assisted therapy information. We have the biotensegrity parties information. We were with Leonid in person for a couple of days, and we were asked to do a presentation in about a week for embodied biotensegrity to see what we have learned for ourselves. So we got from the Leonid's presence. And for myself, and I realized talking to Miguel that he was on the same page as me. We were trying to find intelligent questions for Leonid, and intelligent ways of perceiving his intelligent way of seeing tensegrity, movement, and therapy. And it's with the TAT study group, we have the same thing. There is so much. It's so dense. It's so, from Leonid, it's so elaborated. It's never linear, his thinking. He goes for places that make sense, but at least for me, it takes a lot of time to really get at least part of what he's saying. So we are, at least me, I'm on these muddy state of realizing that I wanted to be very smart and look very smart and intelligent while talking about this subject, but I'm not there. I'm really not there. I'm really stepping really slow, and I don't have a wall, the picture of anything wall besides the body. And even that, I also see parts, and I still see, as Steve Levin said the other time, he answered me and he said, yes, no, I still see bones and muscles and tendons, and after 50 years of studying these with his depth of study. So this is a realization and a falling down where I am, that relieves me a little, but it also gets me a little depressed from all the efforts that I'm trying to do. And by saying that, I went back to some questions while re-watching the videos. That have to do with the videos themselves, but I've tried to see them in the perspective of movement, my practice, movement. And to start with, there's the absolute notion that I still see, I'm still on the paradigm of muscles, bones, and parts on the body. And I'm also on the paradigm of compression. Well, I'm in the middle of people, surrounded by people that think that way. All my sources that come from pages that I see, people that post exercises and comments and things, they are all thinking about close, pack, abdominal, stronger, more close, center. They understand center as something very tight and very where you cannot live from. They don't understand center as something that where you can go everywhere. So I think we all, at least me, I'm still falling in that reality. So when I hear Leonid talk, or when I hear these strategies, I need first to make a big shift in the first minutes and remind myself, this is where I am still. Let me shift. I'm just realizing that, and I think it's important, at least for me. And there are more things concerned to movement. The traditional role of the movement trainer or facilitator, which is a director, one that knows the shape, the angle, the right thing to do. And with this perspective that Leonid and Mariana brings us, we have to get out of that, because if we are too stuck in shapes, or if we are too determined, we cannot go anywhere, because everything is about sensing, and sensing changes of tension, sensing distributions, sensing. So nothing is determined. And the other thing is how to sense, and how to convey the idea of sensing, because in the tensegrity assisted therapy, it's the therapist that needs to sense and needs to perceive the tension that is being redistributed or reorganized in the body of the client. In the movement practice, in my movement practice, I have to convey the idea of how to sense tension, localization or distribution, how to distribute the most uniformly possible by an idea, by images, by so everything becomes a little blur, or more difficult for me. So this is where I am after hearing these first best constraint videos.
Did you say Miguel had a different perspective?
No, I think we are in the same page, because we were just talking half an hour ago. We were just setting that. And the thing is, we are now in front of this situation where shape, the structure, it's not so important. The most important things is rely on the organization and interactions of the the system as well, as the body as well. And that is a challenge for us, because most of our information until now, and most of the information that reaches us, is more often based on what's the shape of the body, what's the posture, what's the muscles that are being used to maintain the body on that equation or whatever. And that, for me, the muscle thing, it's not that much of a challenge now. I realized that a few weeks ago that some of the insertions on the muscles were not on my tongue at the moment, but the shape, I still rely on the shape to address to my students a lot, and a lot it meaning, but it's the scale of that I can perceive, and in that way, well, I must rely on it and use it for some way of communication with the students.
It's interesting, right? I think that this is very deep material.
Mhm.
Is he switching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's such deep material. And I think I can safely say at this point that I'm in a kind of a pretty high level of understanding with biotensegrity as the global community, relative to the global community.
Mhm.
You know, because I've been lucky, because I've gotten to work with Steve, because I've gotten to work with, you know, but anyway, and I had to go over this material, and I am still going over this material. Okay. And the original tuition, I think it was for 6 months.
Mhm.
And I wrote to Mariana and I said, I'm not done. I'm like, still, I feel like I'm still at the front edge. And somebody would say, why are you paying for a therapy course? You're not a therapist.
Mhm.
I understand, but Leonid's lens, and Mariana was trained by Leonid. So I am not diminishing her understanding. She's been working with this material longer than I have, right? Because she's got 20 years in.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going on to year 15. Okay. We don't have to have a contest though. Plus that she has application experience in a way that I don't, because she is full-time
Mhm.
working on this stuff. And few people have the understanding, the practical understanding, or even the theoretical understanding that those two people have.
Mhm.
And I am not hesitant at all to say that there is a lot about biotensegrity that they understand that I have not yet understood. And I'm taking the course to improve my ability to understand biotensegrity, because my passion, as much as I love teaching and doing the things I do, writing, blah, 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 my passion is to learn. It comes from just wanting to keep learning, because we're trying to figure out nature here. So, of course, it's confusing. And a lot of people, it amazes me what they're doing also, because neither one of them is doing this in their first language, by the way.
Yeah. It's true.
That for me is just amazing.
Right? And their first language isn't the same. In other words, if two people who grew up speaking Portuguese were doing this like you guys are doing it, when you speak to each other about it, you probably don't use English,
Of course.
No.
right?
No.
But Mariana's first language is Spanish.
Yeah, yeah.
Vietnam's first language is Russian. They can't go to their first languages.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even in that space. So it boggles the mind. I understand feeling lost and having it feel fuzzy completely. You know, a long time ago, when I first got my first iPhone and I could play podcasts, because I resisted it for a long time. I just need a simple phone, turn it on, dial, that's it. Okay. I realized I could find podcasts that would help me fill understanding gaps. And I wanted to fill an understanding gap I had where I was not very strong on understanding business or finances or money, because I was raised in a scenario where that's not something for girls to, that's for your husband, babe. It's, you know, so even, you know, as an adult, my father and my brother were still like doing my taxes and things. And I didn't realize they meant well.
Of course, of course.
So anyway, I started listening to all these podcasts on business and finances and all this stuff. And it was just like a different language. I didn't understand anything. It was like walking into a room of people speaking a completely foreign language. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to listen again. And I'm going to listen again. And then maybe time number 4 or 5, I'm saying that word keeps coming up. What does that word mean? Wait, here's another word that keeps coming up. What does that word mean? So I have a strange learning profile, and I know that. And it got me in trouble at school, and those are fun stories too. But the point is, I know if I just go back and do it again, identify where am I catching an edge? Where do I have a question? And then I answer that question. Okay, now go back again. And I can do that. And that is what I'm doing with these courses, with this course. I cannot tell you how many times I've already heard this first constraints, the introductory, and then the 1A and the 1B.
Yeah.
I have lost track of how many times I've heard it, but I heard new material last night, yesterday, today, because I thought I'm going to go over that again, and I'm doing a lot of things, so I didn't do it any sooner than that. And it's material I've already covered. I thought, wait a minute. What does that mean? Wait a minute. What's he saying here? So, and I had questions I wanted to ask, that I want to ask Leonid and Mariana. Okay. Because to me, the discussion, and remember, I also have this Tai Chi perspective. Do you guys have martial arts backgrounds? Maybe Miguel does. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Miguel does.
Yeah.
What is your
judo?
Okay. So for me, and mine is primarily Taiji and Neigong, Chinese internal arts, a little Xingyi, Bagua. Of course, Qigong gets brought in, but the martial part, the partner work, the push hands, the encounter with another person. Just as when Steve talks about wrestling in those Tea Party videos, when he's talking about his history and how his experience with wrestling is informing what he's doing, maybe more than some other things that you might expect, right? I'm hearing this talk about the therapy from this push hands martial arts kind of perspective. Okay. And so it's going through that different filter with Taiji. Thank goodness I'm in a traditional enough lineage that the anatomical cadaveric perspective it's actually now beginning to make its way in.
Mhm.
There are people who are saying, let's modernize Tai Chi and introduce biomechanics. And, oh, look, you've got a gear here and a lever there and a hinge, and it's like, no, that was the good thing about it, is that we did not have that. We were not anatomical.
Mhm.
Okay. And so to me, it's sad that it starts to come in, because it's taking, not that there can't be information gained that way, maybe there can be, but to me, it's like you're losing the value. You don't
Yeah.
recognize the jewel you have.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have specific questions that I brought today for us that had to do with me listening again, but I also want to go and talk about the center because you brought it up. And Nuno, you brought up so many things.
Yeah.
Okay, we could have like 15 discussions. So I can't remember everything you said. Sorry. But for example, this concept of the center. So in Taiji Chuan, you are cultivating relaxation, not collapse,
Mhm.
not I'm going to be a puddle on the floor, but whole body distribution of all forces, so that everything's, all the guys rowing the boat, everybody's pulling on the oar at the same time, kind of idea, right? And the center, and people come into Taiji and they say, okay, but I'm tightening my core, right? Like, no. You want to relax
Mm.
your belly. You want to relax your center. And it's integrated with the whole. It's, again, not nothing, not flopped, but it is the way a plant leaf comes up and it has energy. And then if you sit down, the grass gets smushed and then it just comes back up again.
Mhm.
So it's full, it's dynamic, it's relaxed. And there's where, so should your center be in Taiji, right? And so this idea, and but people come in and they're coming from this, you've got to strengthen your core.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to do Taiji, tightening their whole, and it's like, no, when you tighten like that, from the self-defense perspective, you deliver yourself to me.
Yeah, of course.
It takes nothing for me to push you when you're tight.
Yeah.
But when you're integrated and relaxed and whole, like a kid who doesn't want to be picked up, I can't do anything.
No.
So
You can just imagine, Susan, the things that we struggle with in Pilates, because nowadays you have every actress, every actor, Schwarzenegger, doing something called Pilates in a machine that looks like a Pilates machine, and they all look like non-human, photoshopped, something that is not normal. And what they promote is tight belly. Core for them means tight belly. So it's very difficult. And we also see that our clients come to us and they want a tight belly because that's what they see in magazines. And they see an actress having a tight belly in the picture coming from a Pilates class. So we have to struggle with all that to
Yes.
to sell,
So,
because we need to sell also. And
no, I understand. My term for it is corporeal materialism,
yeah.
right?
So,
So I'm the better yoga teacher because I can put my ankle behind my head.
yeah, exactly.
Can you put your ankle behind your head?
Yeah.
Then you can't be as good a yoga teacher as I am.
Exactly.
You know, and so we get into contests, and the world is very much driven by that. And although in my lifetime in the media we've seen a much broader range of acceptance for ranges of shapes and sizes
Mhm.
and abilities and everything, okay, it's improved a lot in my lifetime, or over the course of my lifetime so far. However, we have a long way to go.
No.
We have a long way to go. And somebody, you know who Lizzo is?
No,
Oh, you have to see Lizzo.
Lisa with a Z.
Yes, Lizzo. Take
Okay.
a look.
Okay.
She's a world-class performer. She plays the flute, she sings, writes songs, she's an actress. But look at her, she's got high style. She's a very large woman.
Uh-huh.
And when you see her move, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, she's a performer.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And so that is something, not that it was impossible, but that is an open, that kind of thing, that person becoming world-class performer opens things up. And also, if you just look at art through time, okay, you guys are in Lisbon, you've got beautiful stuff there, right? And when you look at how people were painted 600 years ago and what was considered healthy, it was not.
Nothing.
If you were scrawny, it was because you were poor.
Yes.
Right? You were working class, you were lower class, you were poor, you couldn't afford food, and so you were thin.
Yeah.
And wealthy people,
They showed it up in their bellies. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a completely different,
I know.
you know, so these views change over time and their style. And then our definition, okay, let's say, forget about that. Let's just go for health. That is also very, very tricky and changes with time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know people who seem very healthy, then they drop dead.
No.
What happened? He was so healthy.
Yeah.
He was on the treadmill when he had his heart attack, you know. And so this competition is part of our culture and not great. We have to take a long view, but as you say, we have to make money.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is it we're going to do? So all of that does need to get resolved. I think the value of this course for me has to do with one of the things that Leonid said and Mariana said over and over again that I am still developing an appreciation for. I don't think I have the depth of understanding. Is that these are people, the kids they work with, the CP kids, who would not have survived 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't even have survived.
Yeah.
The fact that they've survived and that they can work with them, they can have an insight into what biology and evolution is able to do and how we can respond and what changes we can make
Mhm.
and how the movement must happen. And so there's a lot of paradigm shift stuff required just in studying biotensecurity, but also even more so in this class
Mhm.
because their level of understanding is so high.
You know, with our experience, that's something that we're going to share next week on Embodied Biotensecurity, is that by having the experience of having those kids in our hands and seeing alive Leonid talking in presence of the things happening,
And touching.
it's not all and touching. It's amazing how you start understanding even his words a little bit more. Something that was completely what is he saying? What is he trying to do? And all of a sudden you see it expressed in the body. It is amazing. So I think this course should be, well, it's a great opportunity we have to have it online, but it should have a lot of practical presence component, because it makes a total difference in how you understand simple concepts, simple words, things he's talking about. You see in the picture, but then it's like you see how Mariana is watching when Leonid is talking about the skin as origami and showing the kids and Mariana she's sensing. I know she's sensing what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that capacity to feel and to perceive it in a different, with multiple layers of understanding, I think it's very important to have it in person.
I believe that for us, it was very enlightening because we are used to see the body in motion. We are used to see the person there and even touch it. And they are speaking of something they really contact with. We are talking about the notes, the theory, the complexity of the information, because, well, the subject is very complex. It is very complex.
It is.
That was one of the things that I remember the first lecture of Leonid. He did a preamble, he just introduced the subject, and really the way of thinking, the thinking in time took those steps towards this. It is complex, and you need to understand all those steps back to understand why are we watching this way. And I think one of the things I'm having a little bit of a difficulty, because we are Latin and we see the errors very well. You know, we have the no on our mouth and a minute, and we are used to say, okay, this is not the way of speaking, this is not the way of but the question is, so how can we deliver it in the practical terms? And if we don't look at the shape, if we don't look at the muscle, that is a simple language, how can we explain this to other people? Because we are.
But I think, okay, let me, if I may, I think we are looking at the shape, but we're not looking at the pieces.
Yeah.
Or we're not imagining we understand all of the workings of the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole idea of pieces is in the wrong direction. Like you were saying, Miguel, with the insertion and what's the other end? Origin.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? Cells divide and then divide and divide, or multiply and multiply, however you want to put it. It's the same, right? And then they begin to differentiate. And if they are pulled, they become tendon and muscle, ligament. And if they are pushed, if they're in the pushing in dominant, if that's their dominant force distribution mode is to manage pushing, they become cartilage, they become bone, okay? but they're always all connected. There was never a, here's the bone, I'm going to, I'm going to pull it, the muscle from here. It's an origin point. I'm going to pull it up and then I'm going to stretch it across like a rubber band, and I'm going to insert it over here. That never happened,
I cannot see that anymore.
right? And so when we, and so one of my questions for today, okay, I'll just jump to it if I can.
Yes, please.
There is this discussion about how Mariana's putting her hands, and Leonid says that if you turn your hands out a little bit, you're going to be making the ulnar
connection to the scapula.
connection to the scapula stronger, right? And that it's directly up into the shoulder, and that's a better connection. And I thought, Leonid, you're getting very reductionist and anatomical here. And I thought, with my Taiji mind, this is the question I want to ask them, right? Because to me, and again, I'm doing this from a push hands kind of idea, right? I'm relaxed and I'm integrated and I'm connected, and this is our main, our Laogung point in the center of the hand is our main, kind of like the ear into the other person's body. This is where you want the connection. Even though the palm has a hollow, it's more like, it's like you're on their arm and you're listening. Okay. But in truth, any part of the body can be, the hand is not a hand, the whole body is a hand, and the hand is not a hand. This is from Taiji.
Okay.
So in truth, any part of the body, and if you're dancing with someone close or whatever, or you're doing something, or you're connecting at the hip or the back or wherever, you can be playful in those ways. It doesn't have to be the hand. So the whole body is a hand and the hand is not a hand. But using the hands, I can see why you don't want to flex at the wrist, right? Because you're trying to promote a straight flow of energy through your system, because you're connecting from the ground up through your body, through your hands, through whatever that material is between you, through the other body, through the bed, or or whatever table that they're on, through those legs into the floor, and creating that whole loop. So that to me is like so Taiji, my God, right? Now, if I go too far this way, I can see how I'm engaging more the flip-flop of the radius, right? And that if I'm going this way, I'm going to be engaging more. Okay. But if you perceive the radius and the ulna as a conjoined unit, its own conjoined, dynamic, flexible, but integrated within itself unit, and that it's more like an outrigger canoe, like tibia and fibula or whatever, rather than, or tibia and fibula, rather than people saying that the fibula doesn't do anything. My sister broke her fibula lately, a few weeks ago. And they said, oh, it will heal quickly because it's not weight bearing. And I thought, you have a continuous compression view of the body, my friend. And every bone is a bone because it is bearing compression. That's how it came to become a bone. Wolf's Law tells you, Mr. Doctor, and you know this, that it only remains a bone if pressure is going through it. Don't tell me it's not weight bearing. How is the weight distributed in this tibiofibular system that's got some very strong and interesting stuff woven between it? Same thing here. Why would I want my ulna engaged perhaps you want it governed by the ulna, but you want the radius there too. You want these fingers there too. You see what I mean?
Yeah, can I just say something that came to my mind now? It's interesting your perspective, your Tai Chi perspective of always seeing the whole, and I my interpretation of what Lunit said, I would do the same interpretation and the same saying when I see someone with a rounded shoulder forward, so coming more with a tendency for the radios to be there.
Yeah.
So I would go for let's see if you can be on the other side. But I understand. Yes. I understand that the going to the other side is a very you're breaking the whole, because it's like the inner part, you can dispense it, you don't need it, you need the outer side because you're already here. And I understand for
say it in a different way. I'm missing what you're saying.
So what I would, for someone that is rounded shoulder forward,
yeah,
that's a person that would push with the radio, with the thumb mostly, would have the tendency to do it. I would correct that person and say, push from the outside so you can feel your the opening of the scapula, blah, 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 the support of your back. But I understand that by saying that, my view of the body has a preconceived idea that I can split things and say, work only from these parts. You're only working from the inside. And even if someone is having the hand like so, as you say, it can be using the whole outward and inward
all together.
The shape, this is what Lini was saying, the shape is important. Go for the shape. And it's not go for the shape, it's go for the duration of the shape,
the internal connection. I think so. But the shape can help us. Okay, this is, but I think that when so somebody comes into a Tai Chi class, and I haven't taught indoors in a long time, so and we say stand comfortably. Now, some people will stand comfortably and their palms will be turned, so their arms are hanging and I'm seeing the back of their hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you see that, that is a shape. Mm-hmm. And what does that tell you?
That the person is rounded forward. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I could say, what happens if you put your hand on your thigh? And can you relax that way? That's a very external way of doing it. Mm-hmm. But when I see those people, or they've got something overdeveloped, like mm-hmm. very muscular, depending on how their muscles are developed, and then their arms hang and their palms are facing back. And we would do this kind of opening thing to explore comfortably, turning, opening, and come back. And, just like, what are those lines? What are those feelings internally? But when I say this to you guys, their palms were facing behind them. Both of you are like, yeah, I know that. I've seen that. Okay, so we do use shape. Mm-hmm. You see?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and we need to. I had a guy who was in my Tai Chi class. He was like this. So I thought he had a medical condition. I brought in rolls of toilet tissue and we balanced them on our heads, and then we were doing the form, So everybody laughs because it's toilet paper. That's good. Everybody relaxes. But then they're not heavy, but they're heavy enough. And he took his and he put his, he balanced it. At the end of class, he came up to me and he said, you know, I think I've been holding my head this way a little bit. And I said, wow, that's interesting. How great that you noticed. And for the next few weeks, when I saw him, he was like this. He stopped coming to class. About a few months later, 3 months later, I saw him again. Because to him, this felt like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to those people, this
Yeah.
feels like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
agree. No. And I like your approach of handling the realization for the person. You don't have to say, hey, do you notice that you have your head like that? Can you just made something for the person to maybe get there by his own.
I didn't know he could do it. I just thought he was going to put the toilet paper like this because I thought he had some kind of a medical condition. Because I'm not trying to force people into a shape, because it's about tuning into what am I feeling and all of that. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Miguel. I'm sorry.
No. I was just realizing the same thing because, well, the important thing is what the person perceives. And normally, if you try to correct it, put yourself like this and like this, normally they will say, but I'm
twisted.
I'm twisted.
What have you done to me?
So just let it be. No, your approach was very smart, I think.
Yeah, and it reminds me, so there comes the difficulty we have, movement teachers, to implement such a thing as perceived tensions and perceive tension distribution, because someone is like this, and how do you feel his shoulders? Oh, I'm okay. Yes. Do you have a neck pain? No, I'm okay. So I understand that we can do, and that's what we well, at least that's my approach, and Miguel, we try to not impose like lower your shoulders, retract your head. No, we just move around and say, so how do you feel in this way, as having a toilet paper on the head? How do you feel doing this? What about this? What about that? It takes more time, and it takes more patience, and it takes more, yeah, you need to give space to the person in front of you, which is sometimes you as the teacher. It's not very ego comfortable, let's say.
No, it takes more time, but it's more reliable, because the important thing is, yeah, more reliable.
Because they're building it inside of them for themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
You had other questions that you wanted to share with us for us to
here's a note I have. Hold on, let me find it. This is a quote. This is in the first best constraints thing. I think it's in the 1A, about 23 minutes in. The secondary constraints would not, or the second best or the third best constraints would not cause the elevation of the general muscle tone.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's about, but you can see it. It's 23.39 minutes in, approximately. The secondary constraints would not cause the elevation of the general muscle tone. Parenthetically, he says the secondary constraints would not, or the second best or third best constraints wouldn't cause the elevation of the general muscle tone. And I'm just not sure I'm fuzzy as to what we're getting at there. Does it mean the first best constraints would, but the second and third wouldn't? Why not? So I just, you see, how many times did I have to listen to that recording
As I
before that came up as a question, or before the radius ulna issue came up as a question? Seriously, I've heard this at least 6 times, if not 10.
You're going to say something, Miguel?
well, in my view, the second best is the best at the moment, at that context, being the best strategy, because it itself comes more limited in the ranges of possibilities, ranges of even the context of possibilities. And I'm just, okay, should probably have higher tone. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, right. And he says wouldn't
But maybe
cause
not
an
general
elevation.
higher
Would not.
tone. Because when Leonid shows the pictures of the diastasis abdominis, and he says that the lack of tension there in the center, the compliance there is supported by the stiffness in the abdominal round. Maybe the second best constraint and the second best constraints will not cause a general higher tone, but a localized higher tone, as it happens in a tensegrity. Yeah, you see when I, it generates a general tension on the
not
system,
general, but different from the regular.
but a more
See?
localized thing.
So I think it's a Leonid question.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Because it's like, what, you know, but Nuno, to just go back to what you said at the very beginning. How many times did I listen to that before I had that question?
Yeah.
So it gets clearer, and I listen to it, and it's like poetry to me. Listen, because the phrasing moves your mind to a new way of considering what's going on and what can go on, what can happen, the possibilities, and challenges your foundations, right? Which is good. We have to rethink things.
Yeah, completely.
And so, but I it's not like, oh, I know I took that course. Anybody who says, oh yeah, I took that course, and they listen to everything once, and now they think they have it.
No.
I know.
It's a lot of context.
Yes.
I'm not sure I believe that person, you know?
Yeah. You know, what we are going to, me and Miguel, we wanted to we want to invite Leonid to come to Lisbon to spend some time and to open his practice here in Portugal. And in the meanwhile, to favor our interests, our private interests, of seeing him discussing movement with normal, let's say normal fitness persons, Pilates persons, and do evaluations of our clients and normal people. And we would like, well, this is a second thought, but we would really like to see him doing this kind of course instead of being therapy applied. Movement, how would he see a movement thing, a movement context, because the context has to change his line of thinking.
Yeah. And think of the earlier, one of the first videos where he has the guy climbing the rocks.
I remember.
And he says this guy has back pain, really bad back pain, because he can see that whole thoracolumbar area is is not developed.
Yeah.
There's no diamond there. There's that caving in. He said that guy has back pain. And then there's another picture somewhere else where it's a very well developed, and he says, I can guarantee you this guy has never had back pain in his life. Right? So he's definitely able to see it in the kind of regular.
Yes, persons.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be
So
very
it would
nice.
be interesting if you can, so ask him. It's a great idea.
Yes, I think is up to it if we push him a little. No, it doesn't need too much of a push to develop things, because he's a creator.
And
Well, I don't know.
also-
He's a big guy, so.
But also he works with the parents.
Mhm.
Okay, so he's working with their bodies too. And when you see the discussion with Mariana when she's doing the therapy, and she's like, okay, I can't have my wrist flex like this. Wait a minute, I'm not tall enough. I need to stand on something, or I need to move this way because I'm using these muscles. Because she's looking for the thing we look for in Taiji. The whole body is one unit, all of the pieces connected together as if by threads. These are words from Taiji classics.
Hmm.
Where everything functions as a one. When she recognizes in her body, when she's doing the therapy, you see, and they have to teach the parents this. The parents have to be integrated and coming from ground all the way up through the fingertips in order to be able to sustain. It's about functional, sustainable movement,
Mhm.
because the parents have to do this over and over and over again to these kids for years.
Yeah.
So if you don't teach them to do it in a way where they're not ending up
Yes.
in pain or exhausted, Mariana's like relaxed. She's just shifting her weight. She's connecting. Everything's very relaxed. When you feel like that, you can do it for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You're not getting spent after 3.5 minutes. I'm going to tighten my core. I'm going to go in like this. Hello. So these parents that have this child that needs 20 minutes every day or twice a day. So he is working with
Yes.
the parents' bodies as well.
Normal persons. You're right. No, it told us actually that you could speak anything that we wanted. Like you could address anything. So let's see. Let's see what we can take from him. I had another one thing to ask you, Susan, actually, for some time, that I would like to see. Well, I have one of my clients. She's fascia therapist from Danny Bois method, a guy from France. Okay, Danny Bois. And she's my client, and she's a classical singer. And she's also, well, nowadays she's a voice teacher only, classical singers. So she's very, she loves when I talk about these and I change things and address all these things. And she asked me, and I talked about you saying, there's a professional singer, teacher, blah, 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 blah. So, that's very interesting. And how does she address the singing instrument, the whole body, the whole thing, but focusing on the needs to use this special thing in a certain way for singers? How does this translate into singers? I said, I don't know. I'm going to ask Susan if she's willing to do a presentation for especially addressed for singers in embodied biotensegrity or somewhere, I don't know. Because I would really love to, or if you have anything, any workshop that you teach that we can participate in, I don't know.
The person who's doing the most with that right now is Jeremy,
Okay.
because he's a voice professor.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you my path. So I was singing a lot in college and the years after college. That's when I did most of my performing. And when I moved to Washington, D.C., this is my husband's hometown, and I started taking Tai Chi in 1983. I changed the way I sang. I changed the way I held my guitar. I changed the way I performed. Everything changed because of the Tai Chi principles. And also around that time, I learned of the work of Arthur Lesak,
Mm-hmm.
which is very compatible with everything we do, because he had a different way of, and it's called Lesak kinesensics.
Kinesensic. Okay.
Yeah, Kinesensics, kinesensics.
Okay.
This community of people understands biotensegrity just like the Taiji people do, not because they've been studying biotensegrity, but they can very easily connect with it because of what they've been studying and the way they've been studying movement and voice and the body. Okay. So anyway, and then I worked with people. I did voice teaching for a number of years, private voice teaching. And what I would say to people is, this is the last thing you use. You don't do anything here. If you're trying to do things with this, no. Use your feet, use your hips, use your legs. You know, even this idea of abdominal breathing. Okay, thank you. That's a big improvement over take a deep breath and all of that. It's a big improvement, yes, but why stop with the abdomen? Breathe with it all. Breathe with your skin, breathe with the back of your neck, breathe with the top of your head, breathe with your fingertips. Sing with all of that. And when you do that, everything changes. And the other thing is, you have to not let your mind get psyched out.
Okay.
Because there are people, when they're trying to sing higher, hold on, let me get a ladder. I'm gonna let me climb up on the counter. And so I had to teach a lot of people, if you want to sing a high note, you have to reach way down for it. And if you want to sing a low note, you have to reach way up for it. And then you have the space for it. So you can do something where your tone, where the note gets higher as the tone gets deeper. I haven't done, and the opposite, I haven't done it in a long time, but I'll try. It has to do with me going down. You can see it. You guys are body guys. You can see it.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to get a low note, no. How much space up here can I get?
Okay.
So those are two things. And both of those kind of realizations were more from Taiji, seeing the body as a whole, years before I discovered biotensegrity. But this is why, when I found biotensegrity, it was like, oh,
course.
Here is a physical model. Here is a hard science perspective that I can use to my advantage,
Mhm.
not become enslaved to, but I can use it to my advantage.
I understand.
Science is on my side. Now, of course, you knew it was, because sustainable functional movement, when you find that, you know, it's like the old thing about how the bumblebee can't be flying according to physics, or whether that was ever true. But the point is, the bumblebee doesn't know anything about what you think about what it's doing. The bumblebee doesn't know about your idea of science. The bumblebee doesn't know about your idea of aerodynamics. The bumblebee just does what the bumblebee does. So if we're really studying nature, we're not taking a framework and trying to
Yes.
squeeze nature into it.
Yeah. I totally get it. Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm getting from what you're saying is also, and I try to convey that to my clients and to the people I teach. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you sense. Believe in what you perceive, because that's more true than whatever I can tell you about yourself. Movement in respect to movement or body posture. How do I walk? How do I breathe? How do I just feel it? And then you can add things. But
also, and you've heard me say this before, in those moments when you do know you're going to have something physically demanding, you have to pick up this kid and carry her into the house. You have to pick up this rock. You have to push this car. You have to reach, you know, for this thing. What do you do? If I'm going to reach up for something and I do it like this, I'm just using from here to here.
Mhm.
Come on. You don't really want what's up there, do you? If you really want it, every part of you.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Good. I don't know if you have more things to.
Those were my two big questions, I think.
Okay.
And then, like I said, they're more Leonid questions, right? But the main thing from what you were saying at the beginning is that we're all just
Good.
You know, I'm so glad. Look, there are only 3 of us here. Every time I think, I can't believe there aren't 20 people here, because there need to be so many people have these questions. But I'm so grateful that you've created the space, you've made the space, and that we're here.
Yeah. And we will keep on. Well, I will keep on with the space, because I think it's important. And for me, it's important even not to address what was the original subject that was in
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because what is important is for us to say where we are and how we're getting here. I think the series Leonid is doing with Steve about his trajectory, how he got to his thinking process, it gives me a lot of insights about what things that I didn't understand why. I'm going to tell you just one more thing. I didn't really understand why all the fuzz with the structure of matter, the bubbles, the organization, the chapters you had in your book, and Graham has in his book. I said, okay, this is very interesting, but I really don't understand why. And while hearing Steve's process, thinking about the structure of matter, living matter, he needed to see how it arranges, to see if it. Then I said, wow, now I understand why they are talking about this. But yeah, so it's very important to hear other people talking about their things and their processes and their ways.
Steve taught me biotensegrity, but he also taught me how to think better. You know, And I live with one of the best thinkers I've ever known in my life. That is my husband. And between the two of them, it's great for me.
And
But
you're doing a great job
know-
conveying it.
Say again?
You're doing a great job conveying that idea, because you're a wonderful promoter of thinking differently.
Yeah, but it's so hard. And I knew when I wrote my book, right? There's like, there's like almost 100 little experientials. How many people do you think built the model the way you did? How many people do you think got out raisins and little mini marshmallows or whatever and toothpicks and started building tetrahedrons?
Yeah, yeah.
They don't do it.
They don't do it.
Look at the picture and they think, okay, I don't need to do it.
Yeah, I got it.
I see.
And I did the same thing. I said that in my book. I did the same thing. I hadn't built the 2 frequency tetrahedron. And when I did, and I saw the octagon inside, the octahedron inside. What? Who put that there? I didn't build an octahedron. Wait, how did that happen? It's an emergent shape. Oh my God. What does that even like? I'm telling you, I understand saying, okay, I see she's got that. And, Daniel Claude's book, has, okay, great. Okay, I see that picture. I understand it. No, my friend.
Yes.
Do it with your fingers. Then we will have a conversation. I have a friend, a dear friend from high school. She bought my book because she was being supportive. She said, I don't understand a word of that book. I said, well, you have to build the models. She said, I'm not about to do that. Now she's a lawyer. She wasn't.
Yes.
But so when we do that, we learn things. And do you have time for me to say one other thing?
Yeah, please.
So I've been doing research on what I'm calling the early history of biotensegrity. Okay. And one of the people who developed tensegrity, patented it, is that you don't hear his name as much, David George Emmerich. He was Hungarian, and but he lived in France. And he discovered tensegrity in 1957. And I found where he's writing about. So Kenneth Snelson had already figured it out, right? In the winter between 1948 and 1949. Okay. But it's not like Kenneth Snelson figured it out and made a quick little YouTube video and put it up and everybody in the world can see it, right?
Of course. You
can have 10 years go by and somebody on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean has no idea.
Of course.
And Buckminster Fuller was the first one to patent it. And that was not until 1962. So Emmerich really, I think, had not seen Snelson's stuff. He is an architect and morphologist, like morphological archaeology. Architecture, morphological architecture and nature's shapes. He was already studying. He had to have like a bone, some sort of work on his bones. He had to be in bed for 100 days. Somebody brought him what in this country they call pickup sticks. It's a game with lots of thin, long, and you throw them on the floor and then you use them to. Yeah. And it has a different name in Hungarian, and somebody brought him those so he could play, and he used those and thread and he started playing around. And when you're going to do nothing but be in bed for more than 3 months, you've got a lot of time to play with your thread and your sticks and his morphological kind of background. And
Amazing.
so I understand that as a discovery. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
discovery pathway makes sense to me. Well, I'm lying in bed. What the hell else am I going to do?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I just think
Amazing.
it's amazing. And I still play with my magnets and I still find new things. So
I'm still doing models.
exactly.
Yes.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank
It
you.
was
thanks,
very,
guys.
very informing as usually. Thank you for your presence, Susan. And
I'm
hope
so grateful for you both being here. Really.
we will be here always. Okay. Goodbye and see you
Bye.
next time.
What do
Bye.
we say? Ciao? Do you say ciao in Portugal?
Ciao.
Ciao. Adeus. Adeus.
Adeus.
Adios.
Adeus. To God.
Adios.
Adeus.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.